nature is around us doing its own thing.
For sure. Awesome. Well, we'll get started. I see we're live. People might be hopping on. If you're watching the recording, thank you for taking the time to be here. So I titled this, buyer survival, right? Like the market has been, it's been a little bit, you could say seller's market, maybe buyer's market, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it. And then here we are over, the last couple months where a lot of pent up demand because of COVID and everything else happening. And here we are where there is limited inventory and we're seeing multiple offers again. And I realized through productivity coaching and just talking to a lot of agents, talking to newer agents, that a lot of you may have not experienced this before. And so, the fact that this might be new to you, then there are differences that you may not be aware of. So, and the same thing happened with me. I got my license in 2009. I'm Melissa Machat, by the way. I got my license in 2009, and it was a buyer's market. There was I think 16,000 listings available, and they were all short sales or foreclosures. So you're either dealing with a bank, or for the most part, you're dealing with short sales, which were an average 3 to 6 months, if you were lucky, to close. So I didn't know a 30-day escrow existed. I didn't know what a traditional sale was. That's all I knew. And it was still competitive in multiple offers because the average price point was like $100,000. So everyone was trying to compete. So that's all I knew. So sometimes depending when you come into the market, it can, I never learned pricing for sellers because that never mattered. With a short sale, you just picked a number and hoped, someone wrote an offer and then the bank would tell you. So I never learned pricing until it started to change. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I price a listing? What do you mean? I have to pull comps. You don't just pick a random number and let the bank tell you. So I see that happening again now where agents it's multiple offers. I think that they're just, trying to take advantage and get more money out of my client. I don't even think there really are other offers on the table, or there are other offers on the table, but we need closing costs. So, we keep getting rejected, and now my buyer is giving up and taking a break. And, now you've lost business. So I would love to make this as interactive as possible. I do want to hear challenges or things that you've come across where you're like, have you seen this? What do we do? I will absolutely spend time kind of going over my, suggestions of how you survive in a multiple offer situation, what you can do to get your buyers into homes, especially if it's being competitive. But just know I'm going to save plenty of time at the end for questions, challenges, if there's something specific. And by the way, we don't have to wait all the way to the end. Sarah, I know you mentioned you have to leave a little bit early. But this will be more helpful the more you all participate or let me know what you're seeing out there or what has been happening. So so just want to put that out there, that the more participation, the better. So to start it out, is there anything specific that you're like, and you can put it in the chat box too if you don't want to come off mute. I would love to know, put the chat box up. I would love to know, why are you here on this call today? What do you want to get out of this hour and a half that we're going to spend together, where you're like, I showed up because I want to make sure I know this by the time we're done. So I'd love for you all to just put in the chat. If you want to come off mute, that's great too. But let me know, what do you want to walk away with today? What is it that you're like, yeah, if I'm going to spend this time, because we're all busy. We all got lots of stuff to do. So I want to make sure you get what you want out of it. Sarah, yes.
Okay, so I do have a burning question. So yeah, we just faced this situation. It was a property we knew would go fast based on price and condition. Our buyer offered more than ask. Very well qualified buyer, no contingencies. We still didn't get it. Do you feel, or does anybody else feel it, when you do the math part of your RPA, does it matter if you put down on there, I mean, that if your buyer in there, if they're doing a conventional, maybe they're putting 5% down, 10%, 20%. Does that play a huge part in the seller's decision on which offer to take? And if so, maybe should I be having the conversation with my buyer because they can afford to put more down, that maybe they should, so that that looks better when for their next offer?
Great question. I will absolutely cover that. So thank you for that. All right, so down payment. Yeah. Any other like burning desires? I don't see anything in the chat box yet. Why else are you here? I appreciate if it's to support, but you also want to make sure you're learning something too. So what else? What else do you want to get out of today? What is it?
I'm right here.
I'm Marlene.
Hey, Melissa. Hey, everyone. Well, I know you started with multiple offers, and most definitely I represent a lot of buyers, mostly. And so I guess talking on that sense, for me, what I like to learn is I've just come across with a little bit of a higher volume client. So I'm used to working with clients anything between 150 to possibly my highest has been 470 something. So now that I'm working with this client that is on the volume from 600 up to 800,000, it at first I was a little, but I'm starting to learn it's kind of the same, just a little higher volume. But I guess in multiple offers, you and your experience that I know that you have worked with clients in these volumes or even higher, anything that you can suggest me that I should do different for this client? Or I'm seeing that there's still multiple offers, what you mentioned earlier as well. I'm getting that from agents, the listing agents, kind of like in this case, the offer that we submitted for that property is listed for $699, and it sounds like the agent is pushing for listing price, but there's nothing that comes nowhere close to $699. I mean, the highest in that neighborhood is $500,000. So my client's from California, and he's like, I don't feel comfortable. I love the property, but I don't feel comfortable paying for $200,000 about, comps that we're seeing. So it's where I'm just kind of like, well, I want to go under contract, but how do we mitigate this? I guess you would say. So that's where, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Higher price buyers, appraisal. I have a whole thing on that. So yes. And you said something that I just want to point out. Higher price points, it is the same. There might be some more zeros. It might be bigger checks. It might be, right? Like, it's kind of funny if you get over $1 million, I'm like, how many zeros is it? Like, okay, wait, 1.1, like I have to like see it or write it out. It's the same. So could there be some different things, that you want to do for your client, or you want to kind of go above and beyond? Sure, we'll definitely talk about that. But I love that you're already starting to see it, because that is kind of a fear or limiting belief a lot of us have, is like, what am I going to do when I have for me, my average started at $80,000. So I remember my first $200,000 client, and I thought I was like, going to be rich, because I was like, oh my gosh, 200,000? Are you kidding me? It's like a $6,000 commission check. What am I going to do with all this money? Like, this is crazy. So, and then I remember my first 400,000, and I was freaking out over that. And my first 500, I was like, oh my gosh, it was almost like uncomfortable. But that's just in our head, and prices have come up so much. Like 300,000, what, 325, 350 is the average right now. I'm not kidding. The average used to be 112. So you all are very lucky that even if you're dealing with $100,000, $200,000 clients, my lowest was 27,000, and it was a 2% bank owned. So, yeah, you get like $100 commission check, and it was like, woo, had a closing, cool. Now I'm like, I wish I would have known and had money at the time and could have bought it, but that's a different story. So yeah, ours was like 30,000, 34,000, 27,000. So 100 was like, wow, this is awesome. So perspective is everything.
Yeah.
Yes. So I saw in the chat, buyers giving up because they keep getting beat out with multiple offers, even though they're going above list and asking for closing costs. Yep. How do we deal with when a buyer needs closing costs? So continuing to get beat out and not letting them give up, right? Like, how do you install hope in your people and maybe set the expectation? Some good stuff. We have plenty to talk about. Anything else real quick? And then if things come up, throw it in the chat box. We have time, we'll get to it. I'm gonna just go kind of down the list we've already talked about. And then if anything else inspires you or you have questions, please feel free to speak up. Is that fair? Okay, so don't give up. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna just go in the order that you all just gave me, and I'll add more to it after. So the first question was, does the amount you put down make a difference with the seller? There's so many pieces to an offer that is not just about list price, right? They're like what is a clean offer? We'll start there. A clean offer to me as a listing agent is like, how little are they asking? Are they asking for a home warranty? Are they asking for closing costs? Are they asking for transfer fees, HOA fees? Are they asking for anything out of the norm, right? Like all those little boxes, who's gonna pay for what? I'm paying attention. Is there anything they're like trying to sneak in there that they want the seller to pay? I am looking at how much they're putting down, because here's the thing, as a listing agent, as a seller, I wanna know, how qualified are these buyers? And how much money do they really have? Because if an appraisal came in low, do I want to choose a buyer who doesn't have any money? And this isn't judgment, right? I'm stating facts. Like, do I want to choose a buyer who doesn't have money, needs help with closing costs? So if there was an appraisal issue, they don't even have money to come out of pocket, or they don't have anything to contribute. If there's crazy repairs, do I want to go with someone who, again, I'm assuming has money, so maybe repairs and stuff doesn't mean they want to pay them, but just as a seller, right? This is how I'm interpreting it. So when someone is putting down $50,000, $100,000, $200,000, whatever it may be, versus someone who's putting down 5,000 or, you know, the bare minimum, I'm gonna look at it like, ooh, they got extra money in the bank. Cool. Because if something were to go wrong, if something was gonna happen with the appraisal, at least it doesn't mean that they're going to come out of pocket, right? Like we can't predict what a buyer's going to do, but hypothetically, could I have a stronger chance of someone with 200 grand being able to afford to come out a couple thousand if needed, versus someone who does not have $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 they need from me? So could that play a factor? Absolutely. Is it? But every seller is different. Every agent, how they present it is different. I would need to know exactly what the terms of your offer was. What did they end up going with? So let me just see. Chris, we'll get to that in a moment. He has a tenant question, which is a whole other thing I'm gonna add to the list, right? Tenants, super fun right now. So Sarah, to answer your question, I would say, does it make a difference? Absolutely. Now, here's the thing. Does that mean I should talk to my client about putting more money down to make them look stronger? Right. Not necessarily, because they need to do what financially makes the most sense for them. But could I know that and then tell the listing agent, tell the lender to tell the listing agent that they've got money in the bank, they've got plenty of reserves, just because it's none of our business to choose what someone puts down. But what I want to know, they have plenty of money. Yeah, that's the point, right? It's not how much they're putting down, it's showing you like, how much do they really have? So when I talk to a lender to verify the approval, and the lender, I say like, how qualified is this buyer? Like, do they have assets? Do they have money? Or do they really need closing costs? Some lenders will tell me, some won't, but I've had lenders say they've got plenty of, they're good. And I take that like, okay, cool. So they might still want closing costs just because they have money. Like, we all want to keep the most money in our pocket. It's not like, oh, you don't have money, so you're asking for help. Like, it's not that. Like, we have the right to do what we're comfortable with. Just because you can afford, I guess, let me put it this way, just because you can afford it doesn't mean you want to spend it.
Yeah.
Like if I have 100 grand in the bank, that doesn't mean I want to, you know, and I'm going to go buy a house. That doesn't mean I want to spend 100 grand. Like I might only want to spend 50. That's my choice.
So
I want to spend 25.
would that be for you, if that was your buyer, would that be a conversation you would have with your buyer? Or like in this case, they're using Keller Williams mortgage.
Mhm.
So would that be a conversation I would have with the lender? How would you do that?
I do talk to the lender about my clients.
Okay.
It may not be something the client is comfortable. I'm not going to be like, so how much money you got? Like,
Right.
you know, how much you sitting on that I can use to help? But I am going to talk to the lender and
Okay.
say like, can you give me something to, you know, how solid are they? Do they have extra funds? Do they, by the way, if you are not, here's a tip for everyone. So number one, I don't know how many we'll get through. Remind me about my numbers, but number one is, are you having a conversation with the buyer's lender? If it's your buyer, are you having a conversation with the lender before you ever show a house? I want to know, have you verified everything? Is there anything else you need to check, verify, just because they verbally tell you? By the way, I love that. Yeah, verbally, they sound great. Okay, can things change when people turn in their tax returns and they forgot to mention they report 0 for the last 2 years? Could they forget? Well, I made 200 grand. Yeah, but your tax return says 0. That's 0. But I made 200. No, you deducted it all. So we show 0 income right now. Could that be a problem? I've had child support, alimony. That was a nice surprise at the end. Someone on this call had someone where retirement, right? They're retiring. Lender let us know a couple days before closing that they need, you know, the retirement stuff. And it was like, oh, we can't get that for 90 days. Cool. Would that have been helpful to know before we're out showing? And like, and here's the thing, lenders will tell, oh yeah, they're good. They're great. Everything's good. Okay, what does that mean? Tell me more. We talked about it in role play this morning. Go 3 deep. Ask more questions, because it's really easy to say, oh yeah, everything's great, it checks out fine. And then you get a condition, oh yeah, no problem, you just have to pay off, you know, $15,000 in this thing and we'll close it. And I've had people be like, what? I don't have that money to pay that off. What are you talking about? I can't, like, oh yeah, it should be fine. Like lenders kind of sometimes speak another language of like, yeah, all is good, everything's great. You're like, that's a big deal. I literally had that happen. They were like, yeah, they're gonna have to pay off this like huge thing, and then we'll be fine, they'll close. And I'm like, the buyer was like, we're not doing that. I'm like, well, I guess you're not buying this house. And they were like, yep, guess not. So anyway, so point is, number one tip for surviving, understand your buyer's situation, whether you ask them. I do let buyers know, by the way, earnest money could be 5,000, could be 10,000. That is something due within 24, maybe 48 hours of getting an offer accepted. Are you okay with that? Because that's also really fun when you're like, got an offer accepted, this is so exciting. Okay, $5,000 needs to be deposited in the next 2 days. And they're like, I get paid next week. Can I do it next week? Or like, I had this one too. We've had them all. We all learned the hard way, right? It's in my 401k. Okay, are you aware that there's penalties for pulling that out and it takes time? Once they found that out, they're like, well, I guess we're not buying a house. I'm like, we went through all that to get you an accepted offer, and you can't, like, you don't know. Or I had one where the money was tied up in the sale of their home. They didn't have $10,000. They would once it closed, but they didn't have it. So would this be good to know, like in a consultation before you start showing property? And closing costs. This is another fun one. When you go to write the offer and you're like, so closing costs, did you want to ask for some? And they say, what's that? How much? And I'm like, I don't know. Didn't your lender tell you? And they're like, I don't remember. I don't know. And I'm like, oh, how much are closing costs? I'm like, I have no idea. It's up to your lender. Can closing costs be different depending on the lender you choose or they choose? It's not a set number. So I'm like, I don't know, let me get the lender on the phone. And now we're like scrambling to rush to write this offer. And I'm trying to get a hold of a lender to be like, closing costs, how much? What are we thinking? Do they need help? Do they not? Do they have the money? They don't know about that. By the way, do buyers get overwhelmed with the amount of information thrown at them when it comes to buying a home? Do you know most people don't know the difference between down payment and closing costs? They think they're the same. So you need 3%, 5%, 3.5%, 20% down payment. And by the way, you're going to need another $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $11,000 as your closing costs, not part of your 3.5%. So someone who thinks they've saved up all this money to buy a home and they have $7,000, $8,000, maybe $10,000, which is amazing. Like I'm not, I'm not judging this, right? Like they've done so well to save up like $10,000 and they think that's what it takes to buy the home. And then they find out there's another $7,000 or $8,000 on top of it. That's $17,000 or $18,000 they'll need to bring in at closing or more. And they had no idea. So for me, if I'm going to work with a buyer, I want to know before the consultation or like at the consultation, do they need closing costs? How much is the lender predicting their closing costs to be? Do they have earnest money available and accessible? Are they prepared to put down $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $10,000? By the way, do they know earnest money is not a guarantee they're going to get it back? It takes both sides to sign off to release earnest money. So just because you cancel for a covered reason does not mean they'll just give it back to you. So in the consultation, buyer consultation is when I'm actually like setting these expectations, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit because that's also where I'm setting the expectations of multiple offers, how to not give up, and that it could take 3, 4, 5, 10 offers before we get one accepted. And it's still going to be worth it. Don't lose hope, don't give up, right? So we'll get into more expectations in a bit. So does that help everybody kind of have an idea of the conversation you need to have before you ever show property? Because if you ask, and trust me, I've made this mistake 1,000 times where we've been showing homes and we finally found the one and we're ready to write the offer. And now I'm asking them about, okay, closing costs, what do you want to do? And they have this blank look of like, what is it? How much? I'm like, I don't know. You have to ask your lender. And then we try to get a hold of the lender and they're like, it's 8,000. And they're like, what? 8,000? No, I don't. Yeah, I want 8,000. I'm like, oh, no. We're not asking for 8,000 in closing costs. There's multiple offers. Like I totally screwed that up and did it backwards. So any questions on that? And I'm going to read the comment in the chat real quick, but any questions, please let me know. So in the chat, they're just saying that so we'll definitely come back to that list price. Are there unrealistic sellers out there who don't care what the market is? They just want the magical number they made up. So we're gonna circle back to that one for sure. Okay, so did that answer the down payment? You're good on that? So here's the thing that I would suggest too, is like the second tip, I guess, is when you go to submit the offer, how much are you communicating with the listing agent? Because for me, it's borderline stalker, but like in the nicest way possible. I call before I show any property. I want to know if there's offers, what the status is, what's going on before I even show it. If there are multiple offers, so I'm going to walk you through my process real quick. If there are multiple offers, I let the client know and I let them decide if they want to see it or not. I don't just show it, have them fall in love with it and be like, oh, surprise, multiple offers. What do you want to do? No, I want to know, what's the deadline? How many offers are there? What's it looking like? Is there a chance? If it's like 20 offers, 20 grand over list, and list price is their approval amount, I'm going to tell them, like, probably not going to happen. If you want to see it and write an offer, I will, but do you want to? Most of the time they say, forget it, no. Why would you want to put yourself in that situation? Now, if there's one other offer and they tell me it's low and we have until, 7 o'clock tonight, I let the client decide, right? But I want as much detail as possible. So that's before I even show it. Once I show it, can you tell when the client is like in love with the home? If they start showing like, oh my gosh, this might be it. This might be the one. Like now, yes, we have like 5 more to see. So can they change their mind? Of course. While I'm in the home, I text the agent or email and say, hey, we're here right now. They really like it. Have any other offers come in? That's 2 now, and we're still in the house, right? So twice I've reached out and asked and whatever it may be. So any other offers come in, they're really interested. I should have an answer soon. Please let me know if something comes in. We leave the home. Maybe we go look at a couple. Melissa, we really want that one. Like, we want to write an offer. Will you pull comps? Let's figure out what we want to do. Awesome. 3rd time, reach out to the agent. And by the way, I text or I email. This isn't necessarily a phone call, right? It does, like, sometimes they're hard to reach. So text is my favorite. I text or email and say, hey, looks like we're writing an offer. Would love to work with you and make this work. What do we need to do to make this work? Are there any other offers? What's happening with the offers? If it is a multiple offer situation, sometimes I will get on the phone because they're not going to put details sometimes in an email. But if I'm talking to them, I can maybe ask more questions and get a read of where they're at. So let's say there's multiple offers and my client really wants it. So I call the agent, and like I said, if it's a multiple offer situation, and I would say they want it, what do we need to do? What do we need to do to make this happen? Like, tell me, what do we need to do to make it happen? How many offers do you have? Can you tell me where they're at? Can you give me an idea? By the way, everyone thinks you can't. I think Candy's on here, so if Candy wants to come on and speak, I would love that. But everyone thinks you can't disclose what the offers are. That's what we've been taught. Oh, it's illegal, I can't do that. I learned in a CE class earlier this year, a couple months ago, that that's actually not true. If you have the seller's permission, you can disclose the price you have on multiple offers as long as you fairly disclose to everybody. I can't just tell Sarah because I like her, but not tell Constance, right? So if you're is that the word, fairly sharing, right? You're evenly sharing the information. So when agents say, I can't disclose that information, I say, you want to hear something so crazy? I thought that too. And then I went to the CE class like last month, and they said you can. Isn't that nuts? Like, there's a whole thing on it. Do you want me to send it to you? Like, believe me, I know. I thought you couldn't either. And disclosed to one, disclosed to all. Yeah, they said that you can. So I'm not telling you, yes, you can. That's not true. I'm on their side, right? This is suck up time. If you've ever figured out how to suck up, or really like borderline beg, multiple offers, listing agents, this is the time to pull out those cards. So I've now talked to them 3 times. I haven't even written the offer yet, and I've already communicated 3 times. So over communication is key, and I want to know. So I'm getting out as much information as I can, what's important to them. Let me tell you a little bit about my client. Here's, who they are. They're solid. The lender's already verified everything. They've got money in the bank. Like, they're solid, they're ready. Or, hey, look, I know they need some closing costs. We're gonna write it in the offer to make it still, look appealing. So I'm gonna share all of this with them up front. Now we write the offer and I submit the offer. I follow up with another text message, offer sent, would love to work with you. Yes, here's someone came up for me. Okay. Candy said with seller's written permission. Perfect. So you can. And hey, they could say, you know what, I know you're right, but the seller doesn't want us to. And that usually means it's not in their favor to tell us right? Like they're not good offers, so they don't want to tell us. So I kind of read between the lines too. I also guide with questions. I had this happen. So multiple offers, let's call it 500,000 multiple offers. What do we need to do to make it happen? Well, we have 6 offers. Okay. Are they at like 510, 515? Would 515 be good to make it happen? Close. Okay, so like 520. Pretty much. Okay, so are you saying like 521? And they're like, well, that would be great. Please write it up. So they may not tell you, but I can usually fish out of them, where do we need to be to make this happen? So I literally just use this. Okay, so are you telling me like, are we at like 530? No, we're not there. Oh, okay, so like 515. Well, a little bit better than 515. Okay, so would 520 be enough to make this? You'd be in the running. How about 525? Oh, 525 would be amazing. Yeah, please send us an offer for 525. Have you any, does that make sense? Yeah, so thank you, Mikeia, right? Communication before you submit the offer, that's how you get chosen out of 20 offers, 5 offers, 6 offers, because you're showing your tenacity. You're showing like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Like let's make this happen. Communication. Like, it's like the listing agents are interviewing the buyer's agents. Who do I want to work with for the next 30 to 45 days? Are they someone who communicates with me? Are they someone, now you could say like, yeah, Melissa, I've done all that and I've still lost it. Sure. Could they prefer cash over finance? Could they prefer no closing costs and you still need closing costs even though you came in over? Some sellers are like anti-closing costs. Even if I explain to them they net the exact same amount, they're like, I don't care. I have to pay enough. I'm not paying theirs. They need to figure it out. They exist. They do. You could have the highest offer, but a cash offer comes in at 520. You're at 525. The seller may know it's not going to appraise or be worried. And to them, it's worth 5,000 less for not having to deal with the hassle of financing. Could someone lose their job right now out of the blue? I mean, that could happen anytime, but like right now for real, could someone lose their job like closing with COVID and everything happening? What they just say, MGM, 18,000 people laid off?
Woo. Like, my wife was one of them.
Yeah. It's serious stuff. So for a seller, they might say, I don't care if I walk away with 10,000 less to have peace of mind, it's going to close. So this is where, could you do everything and still not win? Yeah, because it depends what the seller, it's up to the seller and what they ultimately, what's most important to them. So I had that happen, right? It's like they wanted cash only, they wanted 0 contingencies, they wanted earnest money hard after 10-day due diligence. Like they didn't want to mess around, they did not want financing, they didn't care how much over financing offers were. They were like, we're going to hold out for cash, we don't care because we know there's going to be problems. We want peace of mind that we're just not going to have to worry about it. So can you all, so to me, it's not setting the expectation that, look, I'm a great agent, I'm going to get your offer accepted even though there's multiple offers. No, it's setting the expectation that I'm going to literally do everything possible to get you accepted over everyone else. And at the same time, it's up to the seller, and there could be other offers that have terms more appealing than ours. Like cash, like whatever. I'm gonna read the comments real quick. Any questions on that?
I'm not so good at the chat box, so tell me if
That's okay. Go ahead.
So that I agree with you 100%. I call the listing agent like I am, their new best friend. Call them repeatedly, blah, blah, blah. But just one time in particular, like that, the listing agent would not give me the time of day, would barely, only once took my phone calls, would not respond to text messages. So with the offer, I sent a long email explaining the glory of my buyer, you know, and that type of thing. I mean, is there any way around that if you have a listing agent that is just not even picking up the phone when you call?
You got to speak their language.
Okay,
So I text, I call, and I email, and I see which one they respond to.
that's a good idea.
If they don't respond to any of them, I keep trying all three until I get a response. Now, are there listing agents or agents in general out there who are not the most communicative and not the best, not great? Of course. So if you're dealing with someone like that who's just completely non-responsive, that usually tells me they already have a buyer in the wings.
Oh, okay.
Or they already have, I mean, here's the thing too, people forget, if you have a hot property and you price it right, as a listing agent, your phone is blowing up like you would not believe it. Like, I remember one of my like beginning listings back in the day, it was like 120,000, something like that. Anyway, I think I ended up getting 20 offers. My phone would not stop ringing, text, call, like it literally, I remember this because it was a moment where I almost had a nervous breakdown because I was trying to visit, I didn't have leverage, I didn't have admin, I didn't have anything yet. And even then it still drives admin crazy. Just because you have leverage does not mean this isn't overwhelming regardless. But I was trying to spend a weekend with family in California and my phone would not stop. And even though I said multiple offers, we'll deal with it Monday. Like, I'm trying to just collect the offers, I'll deal with it Monday. My phone, I had a moment where I almost like threw it in the ocean, or it was close, it got real close, where I was like, I can't take this anymore. I don't care. I don't care how badly your buyer wants it. Stop sending me letters. I don't know what to tell you. We have 20 freaking offers. Like, what do you want from me? So as a listing agent, if you do high volume or you have a hot property, it's intense. It's intense. So what's the easiest way I can communicate? And for me, like, it's not answering. If I had to talk to every single agent about their buyer and their offer, I'm just like, please stop. Like, I'm gonna just text me or email me and I'll get back to you. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like a non-communicative listing agent, but like, it gets intense.
Yeah.
So I would say figure out which way they communicate.
Okay.
If it's nothing, then you just got to tell your client. So here's the number 3 or whatever we're on. Not that it matters. Here's how I tell a client, a buyer, how to choose the magical number that they want to offer. So either I know what it is if they told me. If they didn't tell me and I don't know, there's just multiple offers. What price are you willing to pay that if I told you you lost it over $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000, you're not going to lose sleep at night kicking yourself because you would have gladly paid it. You would have said, I don't care, good for them, I wasn't paying that. Is that 500? Is that, okay, 500,000, great. So if I told you someone got it for 505, would you lose sleep at night over that? Well, no, good for them. I would not, this is not worth 501. Like, it's not. Okay, so if someone got it for 501, you're cool. Yeah, that's how you know it's the right number. The moment you test them and say, okay, so if you found out someone got it for 501, you're okay with that? Well, no, I mean, $1,000, I'd pay 501. Okay, what about 505? Well, no, I'd pay 505. Okay, what about 510? What about 515? What about, well, I don't want to overpay. Okay, I hear you. I appreciate that. We'll talk about appraisals in a moment, but I need to know what your like walk away bottom line number is in this kind of a situation. What do you feel it's worth? What are you willing to pay for it? Does it make sense for you to pay $525? Well, I don't want 25,000 over a list price. Yeah, but they priced it too low. That's the problem. They priced it too low and now people are bidding it up. So at the end of the day, I want to make sure you're protected. You do need an appraisal. We'll look at all that. So in Marlene's situation where it's like 200,000 over, no, I'm not going to be like, well, if you want it, just go for it. Like, no, there's a real concern that like there's nothing explaining how you made up this number. This is like if the comps make sense, right? So if I don't have a communicative listing agent, that's how I would, and even if I have a communicative listing agent, that's how I would do it. I test them. So, okay, 500, that's your offer. If you find out you lost it at 503, you're cool with it? Well, okay, then 505, 506, 508. Find that threshold where there is a number everyone has where they're like, I'm out, good for them, I wouldn't pay that. The problem is they think they're going to get a counter. They think they're going to get a second chance. They think they're going to get, oh, well, if I had known, I would have done. No, you may not have that opportunity. So if I told you you lost it right now, what would you say? You can tell. Okay, I'm going to check the chat box real quick. Someone asked, you can only let them know price of the offers, not the financing in terms such as closing costs or contingency for sale. Candy, if you're still on, I'd love, oh no, this is a good time to run comps for your buyer and have them sign for your protection. Ooh, that's great. My understanding is if the seller allows you to disclose, you're allowed to disclose as long as you're telling everybody. It's my understanding. Because the communication, yep, you're getting your offer accepted. It does make a difference. Communication, the agent you work can also influence the outcome of the transaction 100%. Okay, question, would it be okay to advise my client if I'm seeing red flags on the other agent and they may make the transaction much more difficult and the transaction, yeah, so I love that Candy's on here so she can tell us like the, real broker answer. I'm just giving you my opinion. I'm not here to get in the way of someone buying a home. However, and I absolutely want them to know what they're about to get themselves into. So I had one today. The buyer wants to see a listing. It is with a listing agent who is known for playing by their own rules, own counteroffer, trying to keep earnest money, even if it's cool to release, you know what I mean? Like it's a what I would consider a difficult person with a reputation that precedes them person. So I told the client, I said, hey, just so you know, you want to see a property that is with a listing agent who is known to be a little bit more difficult. That doesn't mean you can't see it. If you love the house, we will absolutely make it happen. I just want you to be prepared because if you try to back out, if you try to cancel, I've seen it happen numerous times where they try to keep earnest money, even if it's due diligence, even if it's HOA. They've literally tried to keep it or gone to small claims court. So if you want this house, I just want you to know what you're getting yourself into. I want to make sure you really want it before giving them $10,000 you may never see again. Are you okay with that? So I don't look at that as like, you sure you want to move forward on this one? I don't know. He's kind of like, I'm not trying to get drama. I'm just telling them, hey, just so you know, I've had buyers experience this before with this person. It was a fight to get it back. Some people would be like, no, I don't care. I want this house. Cool. And others would say, I don't want to. And I would love to hear Candy because she came on camera. So that means she has a response for us.
I was going to say, Article 15 of the Code of Ethics concerns saying bad things about other realtors. Having said that, when I was a working agent, I would put the houses of the agents who I had easy transactions with first, and the houses of the agents who were a mess like the one you're talking about last. And I would say, this will be an easy escrow. This agent does the job to help it flow. This agent, not so much. I did that myself, clearly knowing that it's a violation of the Code of Ethics, but making my buyer aware. So
thank you. So am I slandering or like saying they're a horrible person and that they're, you know, like, oh, this, like, I'm not creating drama. I'm not telling
No.
a story, right?
It's in the wording. And so it's a matter of, this agent is unethical because they try to keep your money. That could be termed a violation. I have had an escrow with this agent before, and it did not go smooth, and it was not particularly the parties to the transaction who caused it. You're not saying he did it, but
Right.
you're also getting that same idea across. It's in the wording.
Love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm so happy Candy's here. This makes me happy. Last thing I want is for anyone to ever violate anything. Like, I'm very by the book and like do not ever want to get in trouble. So, but I do think, yeah, it's in the wording, and I do think it's important that your buyer knows what they're getting themselves into. Chris asked me to be going over offers on properties you have not seen. I can add that to the list really fast. Unseen. Okay, so we talked about down payment. We kind of talked about how I handle multiple offers and how I communicate, but the way they want to be communicated to, not the way I like. Some of them you will just never get on the phone, and so that's fine. I'll text you. That's cool. Let's just keep it moving, right? So I guess the other thing with multiple offers is, I don't know, do you guys feel like you got some information, and you can put it in the chat box too, do you feel like you got some information to help you deal with multiple offers, or is there anything else about multiple offers that you're still, we're gonna still talk about appraisal, closing costs, expectations, not giving up tenants, and sight unseen. But as far as like multiple offers, do you feel better? I got a yes, yes, okay, cool. Any other questions on it, let me know. But I think the key right now is let's talk about like closing costs. So you have a buyer who does need closing costs, and they keep getting beat out in multiple offer situations. This is where I would go to plan B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever, to get creative. If I have a buyer who is in a price point that one day on the market, there's 20 offers, 15 offers, 10 offers. If you have a buyer who needs closing costs, is that realistic? Property just came on the market today and already has 15 offers, and it's way over list, and your buyer, like, list price is their max and they need closing costs. So to me, you never know, but like, I'm gonna set the expectation that those properties are probably not gonna be in our favor. Too much competition, and we need help. So if it's someone like that, and I have a client and they're just constantly getting beat out, first thing I would do is there a new home anywhere that fits their price point or their budget? New homes can usually pay closing costs. Now you might say the new homes are way too expensive. There's something called standing inventory or quick delivery, depending on the builder, where someone either fell through escrow and they now have this house that's sitting, or they built it like a spec and they want it off the books as fast as possible. Could you get a better deal and negotiate on a standing inventory? The answer is yes. Now you might say there's no new homes for $100,000. Okay, if it's $100,000 and there's nothing new, again, go to plan C, D, E, right? So first things first, if you have a buyer, like, did you know there are brand new homes? You might say like, yeah, Melissa, it's in Pahrump. No one wants to, like, I'm not going to Pahrump. Listen to me for a second. Did you know there are brand new houses being built in Pahrump, maybe in North Las Vegas, East Side? I don't know, take a look, right? In the like 250 range. Did you know that there are some new homes, single story, brand new, 1,500 square feet, between 235 and 250 in Pahrump? Did you know that you might be able to get a brand new house northeast, Sunrise Mountain, wherever, in the mid 200s, maybe? So to me, I want to know, is new an option? And if they're like, I'm not living over there, okay, take someone to a brand new house after they've been beat out on multiple offers and tell me if they're like, I'm not living over here, or if they're like, I can get this over here. Are you kidding me? And like, it could be mine if I want it, like no multiple offers. They'll pay my closing costs. Motivation changes, okay? So just know that just because they told you up front, if it's not realistic, you need to expand their options. Yep, Beezer, Pahrump, 250,000, saved client $50,000. And by the way, as much as we think Pahrump is far, it's about 45 minutes. If you're coming from, and it's a really, I mean, I know I'm biased. I am getting like rental properties in Pahrump, so that's why I know this, because I love it. The drive is really beautiful. And like, if you're coming from anywhere else in a city where you're used to commuting 45 minutes to an hour in traffic, it's like an easy drive. And by the way, they're expanding the highway that goes in between it. So, I mean, if that's what it takes to get your client what they want, would they at least explore the option? It's not that far. It's not as far as we think it is, right? It's pretty, golf course, yep. Yes, so that's option B, new, go new. By the way, builders who want stuff off the books, there is a chance that even though their price is $250 and it's listed at $280, doesn't mean they may not take 30 grand off just to get it done. So I have gotten some crazy deals with new homes standing inventory where it was totally out of my buyer's budget, but miraculously it was end of month and they needed it gone and they like literally gave it away at a loss. It can happen. Option C, are there overpriced listings that are sitting on the market for more than 2 weeks? So I increase, let's say their max is 230. I actually would go up to like 250 and not brand new on the market one day at 250. I'm looking for who has a days on market over 20, 30 days at 250. I'm not saying they're automatically going to come down 20 grand because they've been sitting for 30 days, but could there be some more negotiation room there? I'll get to that question in a second too. So I'm looking for overpriced inventory, homes that have been sitting for a while on the market. I'm also going to pull expireds or withdrawn conditional to see if there's anything sitting. Withdrawn conditional, that is still in contract with the listing agent. So I'm going to call the listing agent and say, hey, I saw you have a listing that's withdrawn. It's literally exactly what my client is looking for. Are the sellers coming back on the market anytime? Are they still interested in selling it? What's going on with it? And let them tell you. I might check for sale by owners. Like I'm gonna get relentless. I'm not gonna just look at the MLS and hope that's it. I'm also, if they know the neighborhood they want, if they know like they're specific, I'm gonna get phone numbers. I might mail something. Hey, I have a buyer who wants to live in this neighborhood. Have you ever thought about selling? Please call me. Door knock. Like we can't, for sell by owners, you can go on Zillow. Like they're most of them are listed on Zillow. You can ask title reps. There are services that pull them, but for sell by owners is like Craigslist, Zillow. There's a lot of scams out there, so just be aware. But I wanna figure out, like, by the way, when you have a buyer who's serious about, like, you're real, don't make it up. Don't go prospect neighborhoods. I have a hot buyer who wants to buy in here and you're just looking for listings with like, you don't really have a buyer. I'm saying like you legit have someone who's like, they want to live here. Could that be another way to find potential listings? So it's kind of like a win-win, right? What else would I do if I have a buyer and they keep getting beat out? It's getting creative, right? So yes, if they need closing costs, absolutely, I'm going to prepare them that they probably need to come in over list price and ask for their closing costs. What I mean by that is, if it's a $250,000 list price and your client is like, I'm going to give them list, give them $250, and then they ask for $5,000 in closing costs, that's not a $250 offer, that's a $245 offer. If they're asking for $10,000 in closing costs, now it's a $240 offer. So, oh, but I gave them list. No, it doesn't matter. It's the same as if you wrote an offer at 240 with no closing costs. So if you need 10 grand in closing costs and list price is 250, that means if you want to give them a list price offer, you got to go up to 260. Can they do that? Can they afford that? Is that beyond their approval? If their approval is 250, I'm not showing, and they need closing costs, I'm not showing them $250,000 homes if there's multiple offers. They have no room to do anything. Is that so if someone's like, no, I need all 10,000, 7,000, 8,000, I'm looking for those homes where we have room to go over and, you know, give them list price or better than list price and ask for closing costs. Yes, I believe it's being recorded and on Facebook, so it should be YouTube channel, our group. So yes, you can find it. So that's what I mean about getting creative. So if you have someone where they just keep getting beat out, I usually regroup back at the office, like sit back down. All right, I know this is getting frustrating. I know you're giving up. Don't give up hope. It's not about that. I give hope. I give faith. Like it always works out the way it's supposed to. The right home is out there, but I need to know that I'm not setting them up for failure. So if I'm giving them hope, the right home is out there, you know, I know we're going to find the one is coming, but I'm only showing them homes that just came on the market that day and have multiple offers and they need closing costs and list price is their max. That's not being hopeful. To me, that's not being like we're setting them up for failure. So I tell them, is there a neighborhood you really want? I will call, I will door knock, I will write them letters. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to go find it. If you know what you want, I'm going to go look for expireds. I'm going to look for old listings on the MLS. I'm going to try to find stuff that's not listed yet. I'm going to check coming soon listings. I'm going to check withdrawals, right? I'm going to check for sell by owners. Like I'm going to get relentless about it. Like my buyers knew that like they were almost like, whoa, okay. You go do your thing. I trust you. Because I was like, I will hunt people down. And I will find you a house. And they were like, I believe you. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to. Don't watch me. You know, like I was relentless. I wasn't like, one came up today. Okay, let's go see it. Oh, it has multiple offers. I'm so sorry. You know? So yeah, I would get like relentless. And here's how I would help them expand their options. So do we have buyers who are not realistic? What they want and what they can afford is just not, they're getting beat out. It's just not, you're doing all of this. You're like, yeah, I've done this. Like everything you've said, I check it off and they're still not, it's not happening. Is there another area you could expand? Is there a way they could get a gift for closing costs? Is there a way you could talk to Keller Mortgage and see if that would bring down the amount that they need? Could you show them different areas like Pahrump and say, hey, to get what you want, and here's how I preface it. I know you said you want to live in Summerlin. I hear you. And would you be open to me showing you something where you might be able to get what you're looking for? That's 10 minutes from where we were, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Can I just show you so you can see other options? So I've had it where I only want to live Southwest. I only want to live Southwest. I'm not going anywhere else. And then I was like, so this isn't quite working. Can't really get you what you want in that price. I know, you know, everything that was like, oh, this is crap. I don't want it. So I was like, can I just show you another area where you could probably get exactly what you want with the price you want to pay? Sometimes I don't even tell them what the area is. I just take them, right? But I get permission. Can I just show you something else? And they were like, fine. Like, I'm not living there, but okay. And then we walked in and they were like, really? I'm like, I know everything you want. Literally, here it is. And this is called the Northwest. By the way, it's the exact same commute time to where you work. What do you think? And they were like, this is it. This is the one. I was like, okay. So I didn't let them, no, I'm not living there. I'm not living there. Let me show you. Can I just show you? can we just go on a little day trip to like Pahrump? Can I just show you what it's like? Can I just show you this beautiful new home community in North? I don't want North Las Vegas. Can I just show you? Can we just go on a little experiment? Because I mean, do people hear things about areas, but they have no idea what they're actually talking about? Have you ever heard of Aliante? Have you ever heard of master plan? There's a new master plan community. Oh, but it's in North Las Vegas. You don't even know what that means. Like you haven't even driven through it. You wouldn't know the difference. But did you know where the line between Henderson and Las Vegas even changes? You don't even notice it if you're driving. You have no idea. Same thing with like Summerlin and like Southwest. You don't know when you've crossed. Okay, maybe there's like a Summerlin sign, but like you wouldn't know. By the way, Wallapai and Sunset did not used to be Summerlin. Now all of a sudden, if you're on the other side of Wallapai, you're in Summerlin. It's like, no, that used to be dirt. That was dirt, and that wasn't Summerlin a couple of years ago. That was Southwest. Oh, but now we're in Summerlin. So you know what I mean? Does that help? Someone asked, are all my buyers under buyer brokerage agreements? Honestly, that's something I never really used. That was a habit. That's the way I learned. I always had the conversations. I do recommend using them, absolutely. I do encourage that you use them now, of course. But when I got started, I didn't even know what that was, to be honest. So yeah, let me just double check. We talked about multiple offers, talked about closing costs. So do you guys feel like you have some additional ideas of how to get creative? You can put in the chat box too. Yes, okay, cool. This is where expectations come in. And this is also where I would set that expectation in the buyer consultation. It's never too late to reset expectations. So if you have a client, a buyer you're working with, and they're just getting defeated. They're getting defeated. You can see it. They're giving up. I like to bring them back to the office. I like to have like a, let's regroup. Let's kind of reconvene. I know we had a consultation. I explained this all to you, but like, it's never too late to regroup. So I would bring them back to the office, have a sit down, whether it's coffee, office, it doesn't matter. You need to have like a resetting the expectations. Like, all right, I know you're giving up hope, and I know this is getting frustrating, and I'm confident. You have to show confidence. I'm confident the right home is out there for you. Whether you believe it or not, things happen for a reason. But let's regroup and see. Let's go through the MLS together again. Let's see if there's anything we can do to shake this up. To, you know, if you're looking for 230 right now, I want to say there's 400 single family homes under 250 in all of Henderson, North Las Vegas, 400. Do you think they're going to go quickly? Yeah, there aren't very many of them. So if that's their price point and they need a house, and I know the criteria of the person that you're working with, and it's a needle in a haystack. Well, if it's a needle in a haystack, let's regroup at the office and let's recast the vision and hope. And here's what I'm going to do. And here's, you know, let's get creative. Let's check the MLS and just see if there's any other areas. Let's see what else we can do. So, hey, look, there was a time where you had to write 10 offers to get something accepted. We're only at 3. We're doing great. Like, you can make it a joke, kind of. But I always bring it back to their motivation, and I always bring it back to what are the benefits of doing something now? Are interest rates the lowest they've ever been? So I know you're getting frustrated and you're thinking like, maybe this isn't going to work. It's not going to happen. But don't give up, because what you can afford today, once interest rates start going up again, you can actually afford even less. So, I mean, you got to almost like remind them their motivation and remind them the benefit of doing something now and not waiting. Because if they say, well, I'm going to wait for prices to come down again, do we know if that's really ever going to happen? And let me tell you a fun fact. Back in I love saying like back in my day, it's like 11 years ago, but back in my day, before DocuSign and you had to, you know, actually handwrite all your offers and print and fax, I want to say the average was 10 offers before you got something accepted, 10 at least. And you didn't go look at them. You just like saw something pop up and you just like submitted an offer and hoped maybe you'd get a response. Like the banks had to put something in there saying investor, non-owner occupied, has to wait 10 days before you can even submit an offer, because people were just like vultures on these properties because they were so cheap. So if you were an owner occupied, you needed closing costs, all these things. Yeah, 10 offers before you got one accepted. So I would remind them, like, I know you're waiting for prices to drop, but what do you think the competition is going to look like when that happens? Because right now we're not seeing it escalate the way it was in 2013 and 14. That multiple offer situation, you were dealing with 20 to 30,000 over list, and whoever waived the appraisal contingency won. So if you didn't have money, you couldn't waive the appraisal, and you needed closing costs, it was kind of like a good luck to you type of a thing. It, like, prices were going up so fast, that was another, like, it didn't matter what you listed it at, you just picked a random number and you'd get multiple offers and people would go crazy and you'd sell it for 20,000 over list, like, and everybody would waive the appraisal. So let's just be grateful. It's not that kind of multiple offer situation. Like, prices aren't like going nuts unless they way underpriced, unless you guys are seeing anything different. And then appraisal, that's next on my list. Any questions or anything, throw them in the chat. And Chris, I do see your questions. I promise I will not end this without answering them. So here's the deal with an appraisal. Marlene, I know you mentioned, I think she had to jump off, but someone had mentioned about their client really wants a home and the comps are nowhere near, anywhere near list price, not even close. So what do? I sometimes like to ask the listing agent, like, do you have comps or anything supporting this that maybe I'm missing? Like, I'm not asking you to pull comps for me, but like, hey, I looked at comps and I'm not seeing anything. Am I missing something? Maybe they know something you don't know. Maybe there was an off-market property that sold and you don't know about it. I don't know. So if it's like 100, 200,000, and then I might even ask 605, our office group, I might say, hey, can you guys just check comps and make sure I'm not missing something? If it's like that big of a gap, I might just ask for some other opinions and help, because I want to just make sure I'm not missing something. It could happen. So if it's if you're like, all right, they literally picked a number out of thin air, there's zero evidence of this price, then you ask the agent, see what they say, and then you have to let your client know. If we have to get an appraisal, there is a chance it's not going to appraise. So are you okay taking a risk? Might be $500. Are you okay taking a risk and seeing what happens? You never know. You never know. Now, does the property have something like a $300,000 pool? Does it have like way over improved, way over upgraded? Like, is there something making it really unique? Does it have a full strip view? Like, is there something that's making it $100,000 more than everyone else? I have plenty of sales that there were no comps, but it had something special about it and we sold it. Don't forget, it's what a buyer feels it's worth, and then the appraisal, of course. But there are cash buyers who are like, this is exactly what I want. I don't care. I want it because it's unique. So if it's a tract home and like every sale is clearly 300 and they're like 400 and there's nothing different, no pool, nothing special. They literally are just 100,000 over every recent sale. Is that something I might say? I mean, you can try it, but like, I don't know. We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We don't know. If it's like 325 and everything else is 300, I don't want to get in the way of a deal in terms of like, you know, we can't predict what an appraisal is gonna what an appraiser is going to say. So in that case, I would actually recommend not, well, it's never going to appraise. You don't know that. I've had homes I was convinced was going to appraise and they didn't. I've had homes that there was no way they were going to appraise and they did, or they got a waiver. There's waivers now. I was like, okay, good thing I didn't, you know, tell my client, don't do it. It's not going to appraise. Does that make sense? So like, I don't want to get in the way, but if it's like 100, 200,000 where it's just like, what I will say is if the seller is telling you to waive the appraisal, okay, that's really the buyer's decision, but do they understand the risk of what that means? So that's my thought on appraisals. We already talked about high price buyers. They're still clients. Treat your clients the same. What would you do and go above and beyond for all your buyers, right? Regardless of price point. We talked about expectations, not giving up. So I think that brings us to tenants in sight unseen. And let me just make sure I didn't miss any other questions. Let's see. Oh, someone asked, does asking for home warranty and appliances and property to stay with the property at the purchase price, and if they're asking closing costs, could that be too much? Yeah, it depends on the seller. So it depends what's included, what's not included. If you're going to give me list price and ask for closing costs and ask for a home warranty and ask for stuff to stay that's not normally going to stay, that's not really list price. So that's my answer to that. That's not really list price. That's below list price. Now, if you come in 5, 10 grand over list price, okay. And I just realized if you're watching this on Facebook or anywhere else, I'm going to go through after and answer questions in the chat if there are more, just in case I'm not responding and you're like, I keep asking you questions, you ask me for questions, I'll come back. So, all right. I've been talking nonstop for like an hour. Any other questions coming up for you all? Or I'm going to just keep going on the tenant unseen properties and I think we'll wrap it up. And if any you need any other questions, let me know. So let me scroll back up to find that question about a buyer closed transaction which has a tenant, and when the property closes, the tenant refuses to leave. Yeah, that's called, there's like, you know, laws protecting tenants right now that cannot be evicted. So if you have a buyer who bought a property and they thought the tenant was moving out and the tenant's not leaving, I think at this point, there's literally nothing you can do about it. I know it's scary, and especially for people who bought a home and they have to move in, you can't evict them. So I would say if you have a buyer who is needing to move into a property, anything involving tenants right now, I would not. You legally cannot even have showings, inspector, appraisal, nothing. So even if a tenant is willing, we've gotten lots of information from our broker Candy and our property manager, don't mess with it. If it's an investor and they don't care and they're just like, I'll buy it, whatever, it's the price is right and I'm good with it, and I know I may not be able, what is it, end of the year now, I may not be able to evict for who knows how long, end of the year. Are they okay with it? If they are, okay. Are you cool not seeing it? Are you cool not getting an inspection, getting an appraisal? Like if you're okay with it, that's up to you. But there is literally laws right now that you cannot evict a tenant. Even if you bought it and you have to move in, it doesn't matter. They are protected with governor, nationwide, state stuff. Candy's coming back. Oh, hold on, you're muted.
Okay.
There you are. Hi.
Hi, just to back up on that. Not only are there laws about that without showing, but the division is searching listings to see language that says call tenant. They are going to be finding agents like crazy. They need money, and they're going to get it from us. And so if you are showing a property to a buyer, you can be in violation. If somebody has a listing, you may want to let them know they need to remove that. I myself went through every one of our listings yesterday looking for that language, because we don't want to be that. So the division is actively looking, and I'm talking not only fines, but they are looking to take back licenses.
Whew,
Yeah,
not worth
so
it.
it's that serious. Just thought I'd add that fun information.
Thank you. I love having you here. This is so much fun. Sometimes I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm right, but I'd love to get back up. So, yeah. So here's the difference. Sight unseen to me is different than like the tenant situation. I'm not touching the tenant situation. I don't care. I had a client who had 2 tenant occupied properties. We started talking months ago. It was probably April-ish. And I told him, unless they're out, I'm not touching it. You can do what you want. You want to try and go with someone else, like, cool. But like, if it's not vacant, if they haven't moved out, I'm not doing it. So luckily they moved out. Like, that was between him and them. It wasn't a property manager. It wasn't an eviction. It was like they moved out. So now I listed it once it's vacant, but I was like, I'm not playing that game. I don't know. I don't care. It's not happening. So sight unseen, that is like the buyer has never seen it in person. So have you done a video walkthrough with them? Is there an inspector who is going? Were you on FaceTime walking through the house? I've absolutely had clients buy sight unseen, but it wasn't blind. It was just, they hadn't physically been in it. Like, there's a difference. So if it's something like I can't access, I can't get in, the tenant thing, we can't even get in it, and they just want to buy it, there's a lot of risk involved with that. Do they really understand what they're getting themselves into? If it's just an out-of-state client and I had a buyer, is like $1 million property. I had a client who bought, $1 million property, and they knew the area, they knew where they wanted to be. They had been into that like floor plan before, but the way they really saw the house was on like FaceTime. I walked them through. I was like 3 hours. Like, I walked them, like, showed everything on video. They did end up like seeing it like at the final walkthrough. That can happen. I'm just making sure I'm following all the steps and being as thorough and documenting and photos and video, so they don't think like, well, you didn't show us that. Like, I showed street views, I showed, neighborhood, like everything. So they couldn't come back and be like, you forgot to show us this hole in the wall. You know what I mean? Or like, you didn't fail to mention that like this backs up to a football field for a high school. Like, you forgot to tell us that. Like, no, I'm being very thorough. Does that answer your question about tenants and sight unseen? Ooh, there's a form, a sight unseen disclosure. Nice. I would totally use that. All right, I actually, with 10 minutes to spare, which is shocking because I know I could just keep going. I think we actually crossed off, like checked off everything on the list. So with 10 minutes left, I know quite a few people had to go and might be watching the recording after. Any other questions that have come up that you would like to talk about before we go? And I actually am going to pull up Facebook. Candy's back. Yes, Candy.
Actually, I'm going to, because obviously I don't work transactions right now, but there were lenders that I heard about and knew who would push a buyer's acceptance or a buyer's approval all the way through underwriting prior to writing an offer. And those lenders were also very willing to speak to a listing agent to let them know this is already through. It's as good as cash. Do you know if there's any of that available now?
I feel like there should be. I mean, there should be. And I think that's a great point. Like, can you get a lender who will do full underwriting approval? So all they literally need is like an escrow number and a appraisal.
Well, and an address.
An address.
But
that's it.
yeah.
Yeah, the address part, sure. You got to find a house, but you know, other than that, they're ready to go.
Because that may help buyers.
So that is a great, thank you. That is absolutely something you can add. And I hope everyone who left early comes back and watches it just for this nugget, because yes, like, could this be something to add to your multiple offer game, to your strength, to your, you know, I've had that where the lender called me as the listing agent and said, hey, my buyer submitted an offer on your listing. I'm the lender. I just want to tell you how solid they are. And I was like, wow, okay, I like it. You're calling me? Cool. Like, I don't even have to call you. So can you get a strong team in place with your lender to have them support you? And when you, when you have that and they're a part of your submitting an offer and you're copying the lender, I've had that too, where it's like, I get an offer, it has a letter, sometimes from the buyer, why they want this home, why it's so important to them, why they love it. I get an email detailed from the listing, or I'm sorry, from the buyer's agent, why their client wants it, how bad they want it, how amazing they are, how well they know them, how incredible people, you know, really building them up. And then they copy the lender when they submit the offer, and then the lender responds and is like, they're solid, I have all of their information, we get things done in, you know, 21 days and blah, blah, blah. And like, I will communicate. I'm just like, whoa, okay. Could there still be another offer that's better than theirs? Sure. But am I going to at least give them a chance, or like think highly of them, that I want to, you know, like, oh, they'd be great to work with. I love that kind of communication. Are you kidding me?
Yes. And there does come a point with regular sellers, and I know you've had this also, that with multiple offers, any bonus thing that you get from the client, the other agent, or the lender, and if you get all three, it's triple bonus, where the money is not the highest, but the seller says, yeah, this is the one I want to sell to.
Yep. If you have a feely seller and they want someone who loves the home as much as they did.
Yeah.
And I had one where like, and not federal for housing, I'm not talking that, but like their dream was like a family would live in this home. Like that was their, like, if I'm going to sell my home, like, I just want someone to like raise their kids here or just love it. They just wanted, they were super amiable. They just wanted someone who loved it as much as they did. And they didn't, it wasn't so much about the number. It wasn't, like Candy said, sometimes that's why every seller is different. You got to find out as much as you can, because not all of them are net and money. Some of them just want to know that it's going to, you know, someone who really loves it or who wants it as bad, or who's going to make it their home. Others are like, spare me the sob story. I don't care. Just get me the one that makes me the most money. Like it's true. So awesome. But yeah, I've had it go both ways where I'm like, whoa, okay. But like, I've had one where it's like the cutest photo of like their pit bull and like the family. And I'm like, are you sure you don't like, but look how cute the dog is. Of course I'm going to do that. I'm like, come on, like this dog wants a yard. Like, can't you give it its like best life? You know, they were just like, the other one made me more money. Like, I really don't care about the dog. And I'm like, oh, okay. Right. So like everyone's different. And I've seen it go the other way where it was like, oh, you're going to raise your 3-year-old in the home. Oh, I would love for you to raise your family in this house. you may not have been the best, or you may have been even with someone else, but like I connected to you. So yeah, if you just say like, here's my offer. I can't tell you how many emails I get from agents who never talked to me, never asked me if there were any other offers. I just got an offer show up in my email one day and it was like, hey, here's an offer for blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, did you see the house? Did you look at it? Have you been there? Who are you? Where'd you come from? I literally, that's my question. Have you seen it? Like I go back and I'm like, did they open the lockbox? Who is it? I don't know who this person is. Here's my offer. Do they even want the house? How bad do they want it? Do they like it? Do they even like the house? Are you just like submitting offers and hoping one of them sticks? Anything? Can you give me something? And guess what? I'm not excited to work with those agents at all because I don't believe them. I'm just kind of like, okay.
Well, on the other hand, I am sure you've had the same kind of buyers that I had, which are the ones where you send the offer because they ask you to send the offer and you want to say, I'm sorry, as your intro, because they are going so low.
Oh,
that
in
it's
those
embarrassing.
cases, I say, this is not meant to offend. This is not trying to insult your seller. This is, I hope, please know, this is not trying to offend you or your seller, but based on what we've seen with comps and blah, 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 we would love for you to counter. That's my word. We would love for you to counter. Please don't hate me. Just counter me. Okay. Please don't reject it. Please don't reject it. Anyway, cool. Well, I hope you got something out of it. Thank you so much, Candy, for being on this. And
you did a fabulous job. I have a tendency to kibitz, you know this, and I stayed out until it was like, okay, I just want to add this little bit or that little bit and leave it at that. You did a great job.
Thank you. Oh, it's